Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive, playoff edition. Why are you laughing?
Do you not know how long the opening song is? You had,
Is it-
I can see you, and you were like 10 seconds early on this. You were sitting there holding the W. Like I'm like,
I'm on my phone and I wasn't paying attention that the tracker shows on the bottom progress. And I thought it was after Joe Burrow, but no, I forgot they show us and then they do the whale logo. Yeah, it's prolonged. It's a crazy day, man. All this NFL news got me thinking about retiring. Should I be, hanging it up, heading out to pasture? It's a very changing of the guard day, man.
Tomlin, man. Tomlin could have just joined in.
Yeah, well, he's got a game plan to work on, man, because he's in the playoffs, unlike everyone else who retired today. I don't know. You think retired, is that a fair word for Belichick and Carroll or what?
Belichick's still the head coach of the Patriots, man.
Yeah, but like you kind of.
I know it's just crazy that there were a couple weird ones. The fact that one's taking so long, the Wink Martindale thing, where I don't know.
That's a good one.
I think he was afforded different opportunities if he were fired rather than quitting, since he, I think he wanted to go have a job elsewhere despite it all. So I don't know. A lot of weird stuff. We'll get into all the coaching stuff. We'll give it all time to breathe. We'll probably do maybe a bye week. That's what we do. Bye week coaching talk.
Casey Brown, Stroud boys unite. Yes, let's get up the tiki torches. Let's march on Houston. It is. It's gonna be a great weekend, man. These wild card games. My God,
some good matchups, man.
Oh, are they good? If you want the TLDL, too long didn't listen to this podcast, I think every dog is live except Miami. I think a bunch of the totals are too high. I think we're headed for some chaos this weekend. I think the playoff picture could look very different come Tuesday morning once we finish Monday night game. Still, very annoyed that there's a Monday night game and we won't know all the matchups after Sunday's primetime game. Do you want to do the deep dive after the Monday halftime podcast?
I was gonna say, so it's fun. Two things. Chernoff bitched about the same thing, and it's funny because when he said it, it's like, man, I was thinking it too. Like, I love having more games spread out is fine, but it sucks having like Monday. It does suck. I'd rather have a Friday. Like, make it a Friday game. Make it Saturday, whatever. The Monday one, it just takes long. But yeah, we don't want to do like our Sunday recap, look at next week's show until we've had all 6 games. So I'm fine doing it Monday night.
Yeah, let's do our normal where we go halftime for Monday Night Football, and then right into our typical early line deep dive.
We have production meetings right here.
Although we're gonna miss 3 of the 4 openers. Should we just do it after Sunday?
Here's the thing. Let's spend a little bit of time on Sunday night.
Well, we're only gonna have 2 openers at that point, right? We may have one. We may have one.
Yeah, we might have to take this off the air and figure something out.
Shit. Yeah.
We'll sort it out. We have time.
This is just
we'll let you know.
I mean, the NFL has really screwed us, the content guys. That's really what this boils down to.
Oh, and there is a Manning cast on Monday too, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
I'd rather have 3 and 3. And also, just kind of going back to that, I think Barry Horse was the one who was all over this too. But the fact that they did this and they're capable of doing it, why don't we have like 5 noon games and 5 3 p.m. games every Sunday? Like, and maybe somebody who's smarter than me with business can explain. Is there something better about having a commercial on during a noon game than a 3:30, whatever, if 4:31 if you're East Coast? Like, is that more desirable for a sponsor? And that's the fact that it's always split like 70-30. I don't understand why not just have. So I know we don't have that many West Coast teams, but just I don't know. Vikings Bears can be a 3:00 game. I don't care. I like that. I like that a ton. Having it split.
Oh yeah, of course.
There's that Sunday scary feeling, or that that bummer feeling you get after the holidays are over. Like that's the 3:00 feeling you get sometimes when there's like 3 games and 2 of them are horrid. Or just sometimes there's 3 bad games in the late slot. So I love that a lot. We'll figure out the schedules for later. We got all weekend.
Okay. Well, let's take turns. Let's alternate here, setting up these handicaps for these 6 games this week. Do you want to go 1, 3, 5, or do you want to lead 2, 4, 6? You go first, and I go first. I go first.
I think we should do a snake draft.
Snake draft? No, no. Just pick one. You want 1, 3, 5, or 2, 4, 6?
Age before beauty. You take the first one.
Fair enough. We start on Saturday with the early slot. Shout out to Bill Simmons and Cousin Sal for the Shakey's Pizza game. The early Saturday game. Yeah, Joe Flacco and company. We haven't seen him in a week. People
I don't understand that reference.
The Shakey's Pizza.
I've heard of it. But
a million years ago. Yeah, a million years ago, they would always have their fantasy football like awards party or something, the end of season party at Shakey's Pizza on Saturday morning Saturday early.
I'm not a huge. I do the rewatchables. I'm not a huge Simmons guy. I do.
Okay.
I do have trivia though. The French restaurant featured in Ferris Bueller. The 2 words. The 2 words. If you say them, it's Shakey's. Like it's a joke about that. I've never been to a Shakey's. All right, but anyway, there's a game.
Yeah, Joe Flacco. In the time we have not seen Joe Flacco, his legend has grown to mythic proportions. I'm not sure if you know this, but the market now treating him like he is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. It's surely elite. He is laying 2.5 points on the road against a Houston team that we saw come through in lucky fashion, ultimately on the road against the Colts. But I will say, there are whiffs of this line at currently 2.5 and at times this week 3, which to me show bias towards Cleveland, likely on the basis of people expecting the playoff debutant CJ Stroud to underperform. I know Houston is dealing with a bevy of injuries, but I think a full week to regroup off of the Saturday game last week will be helpful. This is an interesting one where you've seen the total get bet up from 43.5 to 44.5. I disagree. I think the opener was more correct there. Part of my thinking in terms of attacking this game is, the dog in this one has the better quarterback and is at home.
Yeah, and obviously. So we've had this, everyone and their sisters talked about the splits with the Cleveland defense playing worse away from home. Some of that, I feel like if you go look at that splits, it's just some of their road games were against tougher teams, better quarterbacks.
Sure.
Like I feel like the split isn't completely maybe explained by, they play better at home for prep or the refs, or I don't know what that is. I think a lot of it is just the opponents matched up better at home, or they ended up with backup quarterbacks and some easier games in Cleveland. They had the advantage of some weather games that played into their hand before they got Flacco going. They were not a team that was going to outscore you. They needed that defense to play well and just play ball control. So it's kind of a weird split. I still believe it's a very, very good defense.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Injury wise, we haven't got a lot of news out of anything. There's been it's been very annoying, especially one of these games. Another reason we're annoyed about the Monday game is you get a day later on all the injury reports for that game. Some of the Saturday teams. So, I mean, everyone's doing they've been through
walkthroughs.
Yeah, with preseason, we're 20 weeks deep into playing football. There's walkthroughs. So a lot of it is like, here's, the estimated injury report. These guys would have been limited. We don't actually get to see, is this guy running at full speed? There's no beat reporters letting us know, like, hey, the ankle looks good, or he had a brace on here. It's all estimated stuff. So it's very tough to tell, especially like you said, with Houston's injury report being, a mile and a half long. And truthfully, there's some things to monitor on the Cleveland side too. And Newsome, they said it was light Tuesday practice for Houston. Bunch of guys didn't practice, obviously. And then the Wednesday, do not practice, do not resuscitate, did not practice list for Cleveland on Tuesday was all the Newsom didn't practice, Thornhill didn't practice, the kicker is still hurt. Amari Cooper was a DNP, but he said he would have played last week if it were a game that would have mattered. He said he was good to go, would have gone. I believe him. I think that matters quite a bit that he's saying he's 100% ready to go, because before he did have that heel injury, we saw the breakout game. And I think that's the one thing that's kind of stuck in my craw here, because I'm with you. I think there's some slight value to Houston because we're getting the market reacting to the debutante coach, the debutante quarterback, the debutante play caller, the fact that they're probably one of the worst teams in the playoffs. But at the same time, it's like, man, I know Flacco's made some mistakes, but you go look at the explosive play rates before and after. You go look at the pass, the yards per play, the yards per attempt, everything compared to what we saw in the mismatch of, the other quarterbacks that played for this team before Flacco came in. And you go look at what the Houston defense has been susceptible to. It's like, man, I'm with you. Like my general thoughts are Houston is live. The teaser is good. The total is going the wrong way. But at the same time, I've doubted Joe Flacco a couple times during this stretch, and he's gone out there and put up big yardage. They're not gonna rein that in. It's an indoor game. I think the Cleveland offense probably moves pretty easily here, at least through the air, and finds a couple big plays to Cooper. So I'm probably abstaining outside of a teaser in this one. I've seen the threes got eaten up. It felt early in the week the threes were getting eaten, and then the 2.5s, and there was a little bit of a bounce back and forth. And I wondered if this total would move at all, because I thought there was pretty decent cases for both sides, but it has ticked up. We're at 44.5 and pretty much 2.5 across the board. So the folks taking Houston +3 have won the battle for now.
Yeah, and I think ultimately the fact that Cleveland was a little bit of an unknown quantity last time they played Houston, and Houston went in there with Case Keenum, it's enough for me to kind of excuse that performance. Now that they've seen that offense once and they know a little bit better what to prepare for, I would expect Houston's defense does a little bit better here. Houston's run defense was a no-show against Indy. That's a bit concerning. Houston's D-line was very injured versus Indy. That's a bit concerning, but they do get a draw here against an offensive line that's down to like their 6th and 7th tackles. So there's a chance that they can generate a little bit of pressure, turn Flacco into a statue. Flacco, for whatever it's worth, he's been a breath of fresh air relative to the other quarterback options for the Browns, but he's still, far removed from his highest quality play as a professional. I think ultimately this is going to be a competitive game. I think it's going to be lower scoring than the market thinks. And I think ultimately the fact that Bobby Slowick, for all you want to fault him in terms of some of his sequencing, some of his decision making, he has been phenomenally solid when it comes to providing CJ Stroud with an offensive passing plan that protects him from from severe pressure. And that's kind of the key for Cleveland's defense, which is they create havoc plays via, pass rush. And, Jim Schwartz's defense is amazing, but I think Slowick can counter that to the tune of them at least getting out of those plays and instead of having massive negative plays, they're at least kind of just, neutral plays, and maybe third downs don't get converted very often. There's more punts, but I think ultimately this is Houston and under, and I think I feel pretty weak about every single play I made this week. These are included. So yeah, let's go Texans. I guess one other thing I wanted to bring up. There were people people circulating the playoff debutante stuff, like always. And while you never know how a guy's going to fare under that crucible of pressure until they do it, I think the truth of the matter is a lot of guys don't fare well under that crucible. We have seen CJ Stroud at the college level in the playoff against Georgia, and we have seen him now in the must-win level on the road at Indy perform at a level that is just immaculate. And I think expecting CJ Stroud to bottle it because this is his first playoff game is lunacy. I would also say that you don't need any examples beyond Joe Burrow, who in his first playoff run went to the Super Bowl and realistically could have won. It would not be crazy to see CJ Stroud put together a couple of good games of football and really shock the world and make a deep run here. So we'll see if Houston can be healthy in this one. The wide receiving core health and the D-line health are the two most important injury groups to watch. And I'm just kind of banking on both of those groups being reasonably healthy heading into this contest in my betting plan.
Yeah, I don't think like Will Anderson or Laramie Tunsil is going to be healthy until summer. Those guys are just they're injured. They're going to be on the injury report all week long. They might not practice, and then they just come out and play. And you might not get 100%. You might not get more than 15, 20 snaps out of Anderson, but they're going to be there. Obviously, Noah Brown is important, but it seems like other guys have been able to step up over the course of the year when they've had, injuries to the wide receiver. But like the Shaq Mason, Jerry Hughes, Rankins, bunch of guys DNP on Tuesday. Need some updates on that injury. My only issue, and I'm with you, I think Stroud. Well, I don't know. Go look at Stroud versus Michigan. We all gravitate towards that Georgia game, but he had bad games in big spots in college. It wasn't all roses. That was by far his best game of his career, and it wasn't terribly close. Almost to the point of like, holy shit, what's happening? Why is he playing this good? How is this game close? Why is this, why are they kicking this long field goal? My God, they could have gotten closer. It was such a good game. My only issue would not be with Stroud. It would be this coaching staff. I'm not a super big Ryans and Slowick guy, just based off what, they've kind of come to the forefront a little more over the second half of the season because this team went from, a team that was expected to finish pretty low in the division to, holy shit, this is a 3-team race. This is a good team. This is a team that's going to do some things. I know they had some injuries and it sucked having to start Keenum, but I think, Milf Hunter's pointing it out. Stroud was probably held back by Ryan Day. I don't think much has changed. I honestly think they're holding him back a little. We mentioned it last week with some of the running and some of the run plays and run scheme and the play sequencing wasn't great, I didn't think. And honestly, I wonder if that's what's going to hold them back in this game versus a team that can move it through the air. So keys to the game is like that pass. Yeah, that pass rush has to get there against Flacco. Otherwise, they're going to get into a bit of a track meet, and that's
that's a very fair point. Yeah, I'm going to feel pretty miserable if Flacco is standing back there and dropping dimes 40 yards downfield. I think both my bets lose, but hopefully that's not how this goes. You want to set the table for the Dolphins heading to Kansas City in the Peacock game.
Yeah, the old folks will be mad about this because it's on streaming, just like we did 10 years ago when ESPN took Monday Night Football or whatever. But what do you not have Peacock at this point, guys? Aren't all the Sunday games on Peacock, right? Or is that on NBC too? And I'm just because I'm streaming it. I think
they're on both.
You should be watching. You guys should be watching Poker Face. It's great. But yeah, have Amazon, have Peacock. You need to watch Dolphin football.
Have you seen the Damon Lindelof series on Peacock? By the way,
Slow Horses.
No,
that's Apple. That's Apple Plus. Somebody recommended that the other day.
Damian Lindelof, obviously of Leftovers fame, created a show with the gal from Glow. It's very good.
The glamorous ladies of wrestling.
Yeah, it's very weird, but it was very enjoyable.
I'll have to find
limited series. Yeah, it's right up your alley. Anyway,
the people have been pushing me towards Fargo. I did take in some Fargo, and I will say
nice.
the television show Fargo is.
I believe it was called Mrs. Brown or Miss Brown. I don't remember. Anyway.
Very good. I've thoroughly enjoyed Fargo. Miami will head to Kansas City. This is a game that has taken some action one way. I told you this early in the week, like my initial numbers from last, my composites. I had to do power ratings because of the week 18 weirdness we had. Mm-hmm. So I kind of did some composite ratings for 17-18. And I said, I show a little value on Miami at like 3.5. Like I could take a look at that. And then I updated my numbers. I updated for the injuries. They essentially ended, 3 guys' season ended last week on the defensive side. I know one was more special teams, but that doesn't help. I did update this, and I was closer to a 4. So the fact that this has moved Kansas City's way doesn't I guess it doesn't surprise me a ton. This total, I think this is holding pretty steady. I mean, did it drop a little? I didn't really take too close of a look at this total because I tend to stay away from Miami totals altogether.
It came down to
Looks
44, but there's it's not with authority.
Yeah, not a ton of conviction in any of the moves there, but I think the biggest story outside of the Miami defensive injuries and obviously Waddle and Mostert is probably the weather. And I know some of these guys are not everyone grew up and lived in South Florida their entire lives, but this is a Florida team heading into a game that is supposed to be 0 degrees by the time we hit the third or fourth quarter. We could be looking at, wind chills because there's going to be some decent 15, 20 mile an hour winds. We'd be looking at wind chills well below 0. So I do want, after we talk about this game, I want to talk about the market in general. I don't want to interrupt our trains of thoughts on this one, but like Kansas City, I don't know, the defense has carried them a little, and I know they had some pieces that got hurt kind of quarter pole of the season. We saw a little bit of a lapse in that, and it's come back into a spot where I trust this defense. They're getting some pieces back at wide receiver. I'm not so excited about we're getting Kadarius Toney healthy and that's going to fix anything. But it was a spot last week where we didn't get a lot of information on some of those guys, like Toney and Rice. They were out last week in a game where people were healing up. Although Justin Ross did hurt his hamstring, did not return. So monitor that. L'Jarius Sneed.
What is he, like the 6th option though, passing?
Yeah, that's the thing. It varies every time. Hey, they thrown it to Sky Moore a bunch today, and obviously he's out.
He's on the IR.
L'Jarius Sneed matters. He was limited in practice today. Keep an eye on that. Otherwise, Kansas City's fairly healthy. But like I said, Baker done for the year. Van Ginkel done for the year. Good done for the year. Linebacker.
Xavier Howard.
Get the early. Xavier Howard not playing. Justin Houston. That's a name. He was signed. It was an estimation for the Tuesday injury
Justin
report.
Houston signed by Miami? Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
They're just hoarding just
guys who are on their couch for Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Yeah, pass rushers. So and that's the thing. The good point by Tylen Sport Better. Jesus, you guys have the worst names, all of you. But yeah, if you have a hurt hamstring, there's nothing like a super cold game to help that stay warm and not snap again.
Yeah.
Not super interested in taking this now that we've missed a little bit of the boat. Like you said, this is so you say this is your least favorite dog. Yeah. But if Waddle and Mostert are healthy, I don't see why this team can't run.
Sure.
This team has run. HN and Mostert have been very, very good on the ground.
Yeah, it's a fragile
crazy
because the minute you're at a deficit, what do you do?
It's crazy. Well, I mean, you have some nice fallback options in Hill and maybe Waddle, but that's what I'm saying is I don't think they need to live and die with Hill and Waddle. If they're able to get this running game going, they should be able to hang with this team.
What percent Hill and what percent Waddle do you think show up? Because I think you should be accounting for both of them at reduced strength, particularly Hill. It is, by the way, funny that the Dolphins. But all right, that's fair. It's funny that the Dolphins are on in-season Hard Knocks or whatever, and yet it took Tyreek Hill's house catching on fire to learn that he's in a walking boot. Did you honestly that? Everybody's first reaction to Tyreek Hill's house was on fire was he's wearing a walking boot, and I was like, wow, how did they keep that a secret? But yeah, surely we knew he got hurt in that Titans game. He's got he picked up a second injury last week, so he's a mess. Waddle similarly, I doubt is at full strength here. Look, if this game was both teams at full strength, which Kansas City practically is. And if it was in neutral conditions in a neutral stadium with neutral rest, I would have the set of pick 'em. But when you combine the injuries to Miami with the cold weather, with the extra rest that Kansas City was afforded by having a bye last week, effectively, this should be closer to 7, I think. And so moving from 3.5 to 4.5, I think was correct. The total is actually kind of more interesting. I didn't realize Bookmaker opened this at 46. It got bet down to 43 and then back up to 44. So somebody obviously captured a humongous middle and is keyed on 44 here. They would obviously love to see it land 44 and square that middle. Yeah, I mean, Kansas City. I mean, Miami is the only dog I think that is not live because it's the only dog that I think is not bettable. Every other game, I think, is lined a little too favorably in favor of the favorite. This one, I think, there was room to bet the favorite, and I have some Kansas City money line in round robins, but that's it.
Yeah, so not really discussed, but Tua's never started a playoff game.
True.
This was,
and we do know how he performs in high leverage.
who is? Oh, he came off the bench, maybe.
Skylar Thompson was last.
Skylar Thompson was, yeah. So I mean. We did get the Skylar Thompson game out of the way. He has his stinker out of the way if they still have him sitting around somewhere. But
he was fine. He almost beat Buffalo.
Yeah, I was going to say that game, all 3 playoff debutantes last year covered their ATS number, including Skylar. And God, there was another one that was like a 3-point game. It was ugly, but my main qualm, and I just to play a little devil's advocate, is teams have been able to run against this Chiefs team. It does not have they don't have good defensive rushing metrics. And I guess we'll find out a little bit about Mike McDaniel, because if he tries to, get away from that and push the ball downfield right away against some good secondary pieces and, with Hill and Waddle not at 100%, and he just tries to force things like that, then I don't know, like live betting kind of says I'm going to go with Kansas City in the under at that point. But if he is running, a plus EV rushing scheme like we've seen in the past, Miami's not so dead. And I think I'm going to be live betting this one because I'm pretty much basing on this one how it goes based on what Mike McDaniel does with this offense, because I don't know where Mostert is. Like if Mostert's a full practice on Friday, and granted, I guess it would be Thursday because it's a Saturday game. So if Mostert's a full practice tomorrow, and like he's spry, and him and Ashan look spry, I don't know. I would wonder if there'd be a little Miami money that would enter the market.
Okay. McDaniel thing is interesting to me because like his player forward approach, like if you have one little dip in the road, like he's the kind of guy that'll get you back up the next week, right? But Miami is kind of veered entirely off the cliff at this point, and I don't know how his shtick will be received in the locker room.
It's not as fun to have the sassy nerd when you're getting the shit kicked out of you.
Exactly. I
feel bad for that.
No, that's very appropriate, I think. And so McDaniel having that locker room up for this game is tough for me to really see. This one could be awful, pretty ugly, pretty lopsided in my opinion. For what it's worth, last year Tyler Huntley covered the closing number, I believe, for Baltimore, but not the opener. It opened at 6.5 and it landed 7. Skylar Thompson closed the number in Buffalo. You had 2 debutantes with T-Law and Herbert. You had 2 debutantes with Purdy and Geno. And, of course, the playoff debutante that did the best was Mr. Daniel Jones, who not only covered the 3, but won outright in Minnesota. It was a good year to be a new quarterback in the playoffs.
To be fair, that was just a bad number. Minnesota's defense was so bad.
They were really, really bad. So very true.
That game went over, right?
Yeah. Let's save more thoughts on Kansas City for next week, since the market seems pretty compelled to give us Kansas City Buffalo. And let's talk about Buffalo, who is sitting at 10-point favorites against Pittsburgh. There was early push-pull here that pushed this number to 9 and then straight back up to 10 at Chris with big boy limits. So there are 2 sides in this market. I am on the dog side. The number has gotten battered down to 36, although there was some buyback at 35, I guess. So somebody's trying to corner that part of the total middle market. I just don't think Buffalo's offense is good enough to be warranting 10-point favorites here. Buffalo's defense is fine, but they can be had on the ground, particularly off tackle, which is where Pittsburgh wants to attack.
Thank you.
I think this could be a pretty competitive game. And honestly, the fact that Buffalo bottled a playoff game at home last year against Skylar Thompson, almost lost, and then did lose to Joe Burrow in impressive fashion can be a little bit of nerves with the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen is the more, I think, likely quarterback to have a turnover in this game, which is saying a lot because Mason Rudolph, I mean, for what we know from years past, is not a good quarterback, but he has threaded together some pretty good performances. He's at least playing mistake-free. He is capable of attacking down the field. Now, the wind is going to be so vicious in Buffalo. I doubt anyone's attacking down the field, even big arm Josh Allen. So this may come down to Josh Allen being aggressive on the ground and kind of forcing his way to victory via scrambles. If Buffalo wins, I think it's going to be narrow. Like a total this low, whether this gross, 10 points is just it's a chasm. It is so much space between these two teams, and if this was lousy Mitch Trubisky or even shitty Kenny Pickett, maybe 10 points is fair. But I think this is ought to be more like 7.5.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Josh Allen's rushing prop is in this one, because I would think that would be something you have to unleash, and if not, on purpose via scrambles. I haven't talked about my numbers a bunch, other than the fact that I did have to move the Miami number a lot off of last week. Was just some of the uncertainty, the fact that we're not getting the 100% receivers and the defensive injuries. But this was one where right away I said, I better grab this 10 now. Like I did not. I'm gobsmacked that it continues to get back when it gets to 9.5, I guess. Some people have some faith in Buffalo here, but with this low total, and like you said, this is another one where they project out kind of in the same spot as probably Kansas City at this point, now that they're healthier in the back. There was a middle of the season, early season where they were really thin at safety. They'd lost a corner already. They'd had another corner that was beat up, and the secondary was pretty rough. But I mean, that affected the run as well. But it's the same as Kansas City, where they've tightened up a little. Their secondary is okay. It's a decent defense, but yeah, they can be run against. And just like Drew said, they can be run against outside. An outside zone scheme is going to eat them up like it has been. And I don't know, you don't want to push your luck with Mason Rudolph. I don't know what Tomlin's thought process here, but you've gotten 3 pretty decent games out of this guy. Yeah. Let's not ask the world out of him in a road playoff game like this, and kind of stick. Not only that, but we kind of thought Najee Harris was going to get usurped here for carries, and I don't know, the last month.
But it's just a two-headed monster. Yeah.
Well, and I wonder too if just him having Warren there, and they, Warren's eating into his carries. Warren's eating. You know what Warren eating into his carries did? It kept him
preserving
fresh.
His legs. Yeah.
He looks a lot better. So I mean, if we can get 70% of the Mason Rudolph we've got the last 3 weeks, and Warren and Harris look like they have over basically the course of the season against defenses like this, I don't understand how they don't. I mean, I guess how we lose this is we're like, man, Steelers had 380 yards, went 0 for 5 in the red zone, lost by 11.
That's not crazy.
I guess that's our path to lose here. But no, this is when I bet. This is when I like quite a bit, plus 10.
Okay, so if you like this, 2 important questions for you. The first is, how many points is TJ Wattworth? 2. Okay. That's fair. I don't think that's crazy. I would have a 1.5 too. Second important question is,
I
for those
put it
of
up
you who
at
are
2
listening in
just
podcast, for those of you listening
Minka
in podcast,
and Trent
Andy gave me the peace
Oh
sign for
shit!
2.
Yeah, I can't hear that.
For 2.
But no, I did lean a little heavier because Minka and Trenton Thompson are hurt too.
Minka's trending in.
Yeah, I know.
For the first time since the knee injury.
The fact that they're missing some important pieces, like the more hurt the defense is, the more
excited you are.
Although I'm calling
Cam Hayward looks damn good.
It's the Alex Highsmith game. TJ Watt's been overshadowing him, and it's been holding him back. 5 sacks.
Cam, it's the Cam Hayward game because Buffalo seems inclined to really lean into the run, and that's not going to work with Cam Hayward out there. That guy's a monster. All right, second important question for you.
Real quick. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I don't know. 2 is a lot. I think 2 is kind of based on an average total, like 2 points, whatever the win percentage difference is for 2 points on like a total of 42. Yeah. So it's a little less because it's total so low.
Okay. So second question is, where do you lean in terms of who has the intangibles here? Is it the Tomlin voodoo or the McDermott jihad?
Oh God, I didn't think you were going to do that. I didn't think you were going to do that. Somebody pointed that out. He's like, there was just a tweet because of all the crazy stuff that's been happening in the NFL and then all the retirements. Like, man, we're gonna look back in 20 years and talk about like how the McDermott 9/11 speech was like a turning point for sports.
What's weird is that it happened in like 2019 in the preseason or something. Like this happened a million years ago, and the guy who brought it up just brought it up because he has a personal axe to grind with McDermott, and he was like trying to get him, put some heat on his seat because McDermott's, because the team was performing poorly. They were 6-6, and he was like, I've been waiting to release this story. This is gonna look so bad, but really that happened like 4 years ago, so it's not super relevant, except for the fact that they're undefeated since that story came out. They circled the wagons, so to speak.
Obviously, Tomlin has more experience, but McDermott's a good coach. And as some smart people on the internet have pointed out, the offensive coordinator change has probably, it's not been better. It's just they've had better results. Like honestly, for both teams. Like I don't know that either team like made some huge stride by this is the replace your offensive coordinator and make it to the playoffs bowl.
Yeah, that's a great call. Wow.
And,
yes,
and I
right.
don't think either move was like, oh, this is what unlocked things, or like now we're a lot better. Like both teams have been.
Well, maybe. I mean, for all we know, Canada was like determined to get make Kenny Pickett a thing. And if he forced Kenny Pickett in the last 2 weeks instead of letting Mason Rudolph play, maybe they wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's the thing. Like I really had written this team off when they finally went to Mason Rudolph because everything we saw from like him, in previous iterations of him starting.
You remember how bad that Colts game was? The Steelers were useless. Oh yeah,
so bad.
And the Steelers as a team were just broken in that Colts game, and it was like, oh yeah, Mason Rudolph's really going to save the day here. Well, he lit the shit up when he played the Bengals and the Seahawks, two of the worst defenses in the NFL. So now I believe in him. That's kind of crazy. Anyway,
yeah, we've mentioned it numerous times. I will give Brady credit. Joe Brady for some of the game plans and how it's worked out. So maybe that was an upgrade up there in Buffalo, but like, I don't know, just the fact that they stumbled into a Mason Rudolph who took this many years to figure it out, I guess. Mason Rudolph is a poor man's Jake Browning.
Yep. Very, very fair. So you want to set the table for Packers boys?
The Packers and the boys. This one is sitting at let me get the timestamp. 37-37. That's easy to remember. This total ticked up. It tested 51, came back down. There were some sevens. I believe we had 7 for a bit at maybe some of the softer books, but for the most part, this is sitting 7.5. This is my weakest dog, and not only numbers wise, but matchup wise, and mostly Dallas offense versus Green Bay defense matchup wise, where I see Green Bay can have like a B+ day on offense and lose by 15.
Sure. Because
if their defense has an average day and Dallas brings any sort of A game, like I don't know how Chicago bungled this last week and didn't play well. We've seen it week in and week out. This defense can be had, even with Jair back, even with Devondre Campbell, and it's still not a good defense. And I mean, you should just. I don't understand why CD wouldn't have like 15 targets here. I understand why everybody, the tight end should eat. Everything should eat. Like we've seen it across the middle. We've seen him get beat deep. We've seen him not be able to stop the run at times. Like you can kind of just pick whatever you decide you think you're best at and do that, because Green Bay has been almost equally bad against the run and the pass. It's a bottom 5 defense for me, and I think it's going to be America's team. It's America's teaser. Like it's a home game.
I think the Packers are the America's teaser buster, honestly.
Yeah. I think everyone's
Yeah.
gonna have this teaser, man.
I believe it.
All right, I'd love to embrace debate. I'd love to
Okay.
hear how Green Bay keeps the offense in check.
These two teams are the same team. They're the same team, Andy.
Okay.
The offenses are both top 5. The quarterbacks are both top 5. The skill position groups are both dynamic and deep and have multitudes. If anything, I would say that the running attack for Green Bay is better. If anything, I would say the offensive line for Green Bay is better and healthier. I think that both defenses are suspect. I agree with you that Green Bay's defense is more sus. But we saw, for instance, in Thanksgiving Day game, if Green Bay can generate a positive game state here, their pass rush can definitely get home and make a difference. And so I don't think that there's not a left tail here where Green Bay plays well enough early to generate a lead, puts Dallas in a little bit of hurt locker. I will say that the pass rush is really all the Green Bay defense has going for them, and they are so soft over the middle of the field that CeeDee Lamb probably destroys them and scores 3 touchdowns on his damn self. But I think this is potentially a very competitive matchup, and I tilt in favor of Green Bay at 7.5 pretty cleanly because of the advantage in the trenches and the advantage with the coaching. If this comes down to a game is close, it's one possession in the end, I have more faith than in Matt LaFleur having some positive answers here. He's kind of revised his aggressiveness substantially this year. It's gone under talked about, but he is now a go for it guy in the middle of the field. And he is better with end of game clock management than Mike McCarthy, and that could literally be their undoing this year. So,
I mean, you can't, I can't argue with any of that. Like, no, hey, Mike, I don't know. What do you want me to say? Like Mike McCarthy as a play caller. God, I would love my dream. What's my dream coaching staff right now? It's probably Flores, DC. And then, like, I almost said Mike McCarthy as an OC. I really like his play calling. I hate his coaching.
Okay.
Like, it's probably Daniel or McVay, Shanny, one of those guys for my OC.
Sure.
I'm not sure there's a good head coach in the league. I'm not sure there's any anymore. I don't know if I like any of them. Who do you think the best head coach is? In like in the whole thing, in game decision making, not screwing things up late.
Man, Steichen's in the conversation for sure.
Who impresses you? They clearly have made the right call like 3 or 4 times in a row in this game. It feels like there's just nobody that consistently, like Dan Campbell is just by accident. He's just uber aggressive.
Yeah,
that just works out.
Yeah.
I thought Kevin O'Connell was going to skew aggressive, but we've seen some bad calls from him. Even, obviously McVay and Shanahan have had their issues in the playoffs at points. Yeah. McCarthy goes without saying. Belichick's never been super aggressive.
Harbaugh, maybe?
Yeah. Harbaugh
Zach
with
Taylor, Shane Steichen.
I don't
Doug
hate Zach
Peterson,
Taylor's answer.
Nick Sirianni.
Sirianni doesn't count because he has a draw 4 card on every 4th and 1. Did I just hit you? What happened with the lights there? What happened there?
I have no idea. They went off.
Was that a UFO?
Yeah, it was weird.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah, I know your points.
Sirianni's a good call.
Your points are fair. Yeah,
your points are fair. My closing thought on this one is that's why I'm not laying it. I don't trust. I'm with you there. I agree. I make this value. I have Dallas favored by 8.6. I think I should. My numbers say I should be betting this. But I'm in the same boat as you. I do not trust McCarthy late if he's up, in the neighborhood. Let's say he's up in the neighborhood of 8-14. I don't trust him at all to make the right decisions to close that game out and get a cover, mostly because he doesn't care. Why would he care at that point?
Yeah.
He just wants to win the game. Teams are not incentivized to win by 8, but my fair makes this value, and my fair also likes this over a bit. So I'm probably looking at a Dallas team total over, even if it's like 30.
That's not crazy because in comeback mode, they're still going to be able to score some points. I think that there is a lot of game state where this is competitive, and there's definitely game state where Dallas runs away and absolutely beats the ever living shit out of them. And I think there's game state where Green Bay gets home. So. Yeah, I think
there's a decent chance people are like saying very nice things about Mike McCarthy after this game. If the Dallas offense hums, because of his play calling, and I think we can all agree his play calling has been pretty solid.
It's very good.
As like, if the offense looks good, if they put up 35, cover or not, like, people are going to be impressed with them, and then that's where you get to worry, I guess.
So the other reason I don't mind, the other major reason I don't mind taking the points here, I'm not really like, and yeah, maybe they don't go to the ground to put this game away, but I'm not really scared of Dallas eating clock and doing long sustained drives and playing keep away here. So I think Green Bay is going to have chances to come back. We've seen Green Bay be pretty effective in comeback mode this year. And part of the reason that they are is because their offensive line is so freaking strong. Like, Dallas's defense is not going to necessarily be able to pass rush their way into a win here. I think there will be chances for Green Bay to backdoor, if not just outright win. So I'm on the Pack, and yeah, I don't know. Like, I have no conviction really in anything this week, but that was probably.
I'm about to lay like a team total over 30, man. I'm not super excited about that. You know how long that play is losing for. I mean, most of those don't cash till the fourth quarter.
True. Rams Detroit. This is my last setup here. We see Detroit at -3. It's juicy. This was 3.5 at one point. For some reason, they decided to give the bettors an opportunity to buy low on the Rams when everybody kind of has acknowledged that they are the team no one wants to play. The reason they're the team no one wants to play is because they have a Super Bowl winning coach and a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And the Super Bowl winning quarterback has shown an exceptionally high level this season that we did not think possible. A ton of that has come at the hands of outstanding pass protection and incredible skill position group. This is probably the most complete wide receiver pair combined with the running back outside of what they have going on in San Francisco across the entire NFL. That is very cool. And Kyren Williams is getting all pro consideration as with his breakout season for good reason. I think LA Rams being able to win multiple ways in this game is a fair expectation. I think the fact that Detroit's defense has looked its best when they blitz, and that has kind of been the key to giving Stafford what he wants in terms of opportunities to knife you down the field, is a bad sign. For reasons a lot of people have covered, the Rams are super duper live here. I will also say, though, that both teams having successful ground games, to me, makes the likelihood that this game gets shortened and comes in under the massive total of 51.5 real. Big total. I played the under, I think, between 51.5 and 3 right now. I like 51.5 better. This should be a good one. Primetime game. There's obviously familiarity with Sean McVay and Jared Goff in terms of how to defend him. There's familiarity between Stafford and this venue where he's played a lot of football.
Just
a
never
lot of boxes here checking in favor of the Rams. Yeah, just never in the playoffs.
It's crazy that Stafford's first playoff game in Detroit is coming. I'm sure that's been mentioned a million times this week. Now, breaking news here. This is one where
this is Detroit's first playoff game in Detroit since the 90s. Is that right?
93 against the Packers, where they were like both wild card teams or something.
Shit. That's so long ago, man.
I mean, it's been a while. We've seen all the other, the Tigers. Have the Pistons been good since like the late 80s? Was there ever a run? When's the last time the Pistons were good besides the bad boy Pistons? I was going to say the Tigers had a World Series run. I don't follow hockey at all, but it's been a while. Detroit deserves something. Not like Michigan's had a bad week. I guess unless you're a Sparty fan for that. But yeah, this is a weird one because I have not seen someone sit down and 04, the 04 champs. I was going to say I'm missing one. Like, I remember in my head the Pistons being really good at some point. Thank you, guys.
That doesn't look anything like me.
Chinese Drew? It doesn't have to be like you. What if his name's just Drew and he's from China or of Chinese descent? Oh, Billups and Rip Hamilton. Yes. I kind of want to go watch some of that. The fact that I haven't seen anyone sit down and make like a good case for Detroit worries me a little. Well, like, why does this seem so easy? Why am I not just betting Rams money line? I have the better coach. I have the better, even with all the things we say about Ben Johnson, I still believe the Rams have the better offensive game planner, the better quarterback, the better wide receivers, even with Amon-Ra St. Brown out there. Like, Everything kind of tilts LA, including defense. Like we've said, this is a secondary that's been beat like a drum at times, and if you blitz, then you know, oh no, Cooper Cup in single coverage, you know, Puka down the seam with a linebacker trying to catch up and a safety trying to get over and find him, and then in some sort of zone, like it's just going to be bad news if you try to blitz and you're not getting home. So that's where I'm not as keen on this under as you, because I think the Rams could turn this into, you know, a bit of a weird spot for Detroit, who's kind of gotten weird and turned into a running team. Like as much as this team started as an over team, it started as it's a team that can throw and can be thrown on. They're going to have some track meets. They have two good running backs, and they've kind of taken advantage of that. So if I'm Detroit, especially without Laporta now, I was going to ask you how much my game plan. Laporta's worth something. Like he's a tight end, but it's not worth a ton. But he's worth something, and he's worth something because the game plan has to change, and you have to continue to lean into the run. And that's where I wonder if that is the keep the ball out of their hands. Don't let them beat our shitty defense. Long sustained drives, because we know Gibbs and Montgomery can get this done. Like and then if it turns into, that's where I think the game state gets interesting. If the Rams get out to like a 7 to 10 point lead, and it's getting later, it's starting to get late early. What do we turn into here for Detroit? Can they crank it back up without Laporta on the field?
So here's kind of the key angle there. Ready?
So good.
What's the most important part of Laporta's game for what Detroit has done successfully? It is his red zone presence, in my opinion.
I was going to say red zone and third down stuff. It feels like he's always there.
Yeah. That's tough to replace. Like maybe impossible. The Lions are one of the better red zone teams that we have ever seen in the NFL. And a ton of that has to do with Laporta. And I can't believe we're saying a rookie tight end is worth points in the playoff game, but he sure as shit is. No doubt in my mind. And so that creates value on the under, because field goals instead of touchdowns seem more likely. Actually, you know what? Turnover on downs instead of touchdowns seem more likely, because that's what Dan Campbell's mantra is going to be in this game.
Two coaches that might be aggressive in the red zone here.
I don't know about McVay.
If it's close enough, if we're close enough,
we'll see.
I'm gonna have to go look at his metrics. It is the playoffs. Butthole's tighten in the playoffs. It sucks.
McVay's a little bit of a baby.
I think he's middle.
He's a little anti-Man Campbell to a degree. Anyway, I think there could be some turnover on downs for the Lions. I think there could be some field goals for the Rams. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game than the market by a decent amount. So under 51.5 favorite play. Rams money line would be my second favorite with the current prices, and hopefully we just get a good game, because this one's going to be the most anticipated of the weekend. And actually, I've been anticipating this going back to when I did the G-Stack George podcast. G-String George? G-Spot George. Yeah, me and G-Spot were rapping about who we wanted to see in the NFC. And I was kind of like, man, the Rams are sleeping giants. What if they get the 6th seed and go to Detroit? This is going on like probably 8 weeks. I've been hoping for this. The Rams
once everyone realized it was once everyone realized like that was a possibility, we're so pumped for it. But yeah, good point by Thailand here, that something that goes underrated in a single elimination tournament like this. Go ask Green Bay, who lost some games down the stretch.
Go ask Chicago in the double doink.
Yeah, I mean, special teams can. Oh man, the double doink was so painful. Such an ugly. Although they did show the Blair Walsh miss today, because it was like the anniversary of that.
Oh man! Oh my god!
27 yards.
Ghosts.
He was such a good kicker too.
Right.
I'm probably gonna have some +3 and some money line here. I missed.
Who is the kicker for the Rams now? Is it Brett Maher? Isn't Brett Maher circulating around, the guy that missed 5 extra points last year?
There's no chance that's accurate.
Brett Maher is floating around. I don't know who the current kicker is for the Rams.
I feel like Maher got put on like. So it might be Brett Maher. I thought he was just a practice squad guy. Didn't they have Crosby for a hot second, or was that the Jets? No, I think the joke was he was going to the Jets.
He is currently a Ram. He is their kicker.
He's a Ram. He is their kicker. God damn it.
He missed an extra point in his return. Did you know that? Wait, did he kick? He kicked for the Rams last week and he missed an extra point? That's got to be a joke. That's got to be a joke.
They went for 2. Well, they did go for 2 late. Ethan Evans. Yeah, maybe we play some. There's going to be fun props.
Brett Maher is their kicker, and he did miss an extra point last week.
That's how much I watched the late games. It didn't matter.
Oh,
Crosby. Crosby was a giant for a little bit.
Crosby, you just see them trot him out and try to attempt a 60-yarder against the Rams, right?
It's almost like when we bitch about coaches or quarterbacks, it's crazy that we can't find, more good kickers.
32 people who can place kick.
Kathy Ireland was a kicker, you guys.
Yeah, Brett Maher scored 1 point last week. He was 1 of 2 on extra points. Not so good. That's better than 0-2, I guess.
Maybe we see an aggressive McVay because he knows his kicker sucks.
If it's Brett Maher undoes the Rams, I'm going to be so bummed.
If he misses 4 extra points, it might actually matter this time. Because it was funny because weren't they kicking the shit out of the team in that game? They
were up 24-0, and it was 4 6-pointers and 0 extra points. Yeah. It was 24.
Yeah, so it was funny because it was funny because it didn't matter as much.
I know, but still, they scored 4 touchdowns and it was a 3-score game. That was insane.
It's a lot less funny when, the game would be close. Like in this one, probably. Sure. I don't want to think about that.
Final game of the week is Tampa Bay, who did go out ignominiously last year to a wild card from the NFC East. They face a wild card from the NFC East again in the 4-5 matchup, although I will tell you, probably power rate this year's Tampa Bay team a little better than last year's. That team stunk. There
were some bad teams in the playoffs last year.
Baker Mayfield's a little beat up. Baker Mayfield's a little hurting. The market is
tough, Drew.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's
what is the market telling you about this game?
Well, it's a Monday. It's telling me that they don't think Baker's 100% because I really thought we'd see, if Baker's healthy, the more concerning injuries I thought were going to be on the Phillies side, especially with both of your star receivers. But the fact that this is just kind of hanging at the 3 on the road, I guess people went back and watched game tape or have had some information that because Baker now has the rib injury and a lower body injury, to use the parlance from the NHL, where they just describe something as lower body when I can't remember if it was an ankle, knee, or whatever. But he looked like he was gutting it out in that game.
Yes,
they were playing a pretty bad team. Now, yes, Philly's defense has been pretty rough. It's been a far cry from what we saw last year. But the other issue is that this is a Monday game, and as we've already complained about not getting much for information injury-wise, we're getting even less here because they have an extra day to prepare, so their practice schedule is a full day back. So a lot to be figured out in this one. This is probably the game I have the least kind of conviction on looking at anything, but the Eagles lost another defensive piece. Rookie Sidney Brown tore his ACL. Sirianni says he hopes that AJ Brown and Devontae Smith can play. Obviously, we all hope, but the good news was the Jalen Hurts finger. I remember thinking, like, if he broke his finger, that's like, can he even play?
That's bad, right?
Is it a Mariota playoff game? Is that what we're gonna get? I don't want that. So not broken. He did just dislocate it, which that thing is still gonna swell up like a motherfucker. I'd love to see what that thing looks like right now. Kind of waiting on injury news on this one and seeing where we're at. But if Baker is healthy, we've seen him have some games where this offense is efficient. Evans is still very good. And obviously this is just another team where, hey, this is a bottom 3 pass defense right now, bottom 2. I don't know how low you have them, but if Baker's healthy,
I have them as
Evans
the 28th. I have them as the 28th best defense overall, and pass defense is bottom 5.
Yeah, big healthy Baker, super live. Obviously, Baker's banged up. This is a terrible game to watch, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
If Baker can't spin it and let's say hurts his fingers all swollen up and he looks like shit
Over
and then
punts.
this game could be bad. Like I'm wondering why this total isn't coming down either. Obviously the best of the outdoor games, this is going to be the best weather. Looking at possible rain, but I don't think it's going to matter too much. You're not going to get any wind down there in Tampa. But yeah, kind of looking at a primetime over or under, excuse me.
Yeah, I think that I played the under 45.5. It hit 43.5. I was kind of sensing from the Eagles number that people might know that the Eagles are going to be fine offensively. So I bought out at 43.5. So I'm no longer engaged in this total. I would love for it to land 44 and hit both of my bets, but I doubt that will happen. And I think Tampa Bay goes in my money line round robin parlay. I have a round robin 6-way, 5-dog money line, and the Chiefs. So far, positive CLV on all of them except for Tampa. I think it's live. Let's go, dogs.
That'll get you in trouble in the playoffs. Thinking too hard.
I don't have anything else to say about these games. Let's put a pin in this then and revisit this on Saturday night. Does that work for you?
I don't think I'm doing anything Saturday. We can hang out.
Let's talk a little Chiefs Fins at halftime. Comment on Taylor Swift's outfit at Arrowhead.
Oh, I bet she's gonna wear the cutest jacket. I guarantee that. I am looking
lock
at
of the game.
So it is going to be cold there by Monday here. High of -5 for Andy. Low of 14 below. Yeah, it's going to get cold here. So
that's terrible.
Not too bad over the weekend, but it's about to. The El Nino held it up as long as we could.
Yeah. Have you been watching this playoff game between the Timberwolves and the Celtics?
So I have no idea what the score is right now, but I said I was going to bet the Celtics at the early number because of the flight issues that the Timberwolves had. I missed it, and it got out to 11 or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
What is the score? Oh, it's a good
Timberwolves are winning. Yeah, the Timberwolves are bringing the heat back to Minnesota for you in the frigid cold, my friend.
This is a road game against a tough team.
No, this is classic Celtics
Edwards
playoff
has
basketball.
27 already.
Yeah.
3 for 3
Classic.
from deep. Jesus.
Classic Celtics
Secret
playoff
pod.
basketball.
What is your favorite team total, Drew? I'll let you kind of guide it.
Green
We
Bay
were
better
aligned
than
on a few things.
Boy.
Should we have an under just because it's the playoffs?
That Detroit under because of no Laporta. Let's just make a bet because of no Laporta on the Detroit under. A lot of ways.
I mean, it's Detroit under. What is that number going to be? 27?
Big old number. 27
it's close to it.
27.5.
Yeah.
Under. Let's do it. 27.5 under for the
I'll
Lions.
be on the Dallas over as well, but yeah, Lions under fading that. I bet some Lions team total overs over the last few weeks, but this is maybe not the spot for it. So under. Ain't playing the Vikings anymore, guys.
Yeah, the Saints are stomp the Vikes situation.
If you enjoy golf, watch the golf the next 2 nights. It's in Hawaii again, which means the tee times start super late, and you'll have some evening golf for your watching pleasure while we wait for the playoff games to start on Saturday.
Also, it'll keep you warm in the frigid Midwest and Northeast, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna watch it indoors where the heat's on.
This is the one in Oahu, right?
Yes. This one's in Honolulu.
On the far side of on the far side of Diamond Head.
Yeah.
On Wailea.
Yeah.
Wailea. What's the name of that? The resort?
Wailea Country Club.
Wailea.
Kapalua is in
that was last
Maui.
week. That was Century.
That was last week.
That was Century. Yep. That was last. This is
and then the next 5
Kahala,
are in
right? Kahala Resort.
Right no, it's just Kapalua.
No, the one this week. It's right next to the Kahala Resort. It's on the far side of Diamond Head. Okay.
Yeah, we're cheering for Gary Woodland, who had a scary brain lesion and is now back healthy Yeah,
Whoa.
watch that video. That sounds terrifying. He's healthy.
That's not good.
I'm cheering for Eric Cole. I'm an Eric Cole guy.
I dig it. All right, well, let's wrap up here. Best of luck this weekend. I'll see you on Saturday, and avoid the frigid cold.
Lodi?
You've never been to Oahu, huh?
No, it's Maui.
Surprised.
It's a lot longer flight from here, buddy.
Well, not relative to Maui. It's right next to Maui.
No, but I'm saying just getting that way. It's
You can
easier.
see it.
It's easier for us to head